Good afternoon, Colin here with Techout, and today we're going to be making another video on Alta Labs, and this time it is on their Route 10, and you can do this with their switches and stuff like that too, and that is we're going to be talking about the VLANs and how I have mine set up. I didn't really use any VLANs or anything like that when I had my Ubiquity set up, but it is something I have been playing around with and using here on my Route 10. So, like I said, you can do most of this on the router or on the switch. So if you look here, we have the switch here, and in this new update, I'm glad you can finally expand these to make them a little bit larger. So on my switch here, you can see we have VLANs right here, and we have the same VLANs here and here. So whether you're using one of their switches and your own router, or you're using their whole combo, this is how you can set it up. Now you may have to do some other configurations on your router if you're not using one of theirs, because obviously they aren't going to be under the same interface like this is, so you may have to set that up a little bit differently. But for the purpose of this video, we're using an Alta Labs Route 10 and their switch. So whether I'm on the router screen or the switch screen, just keep in mind that I'm looking at basically the same settings. It's just in two different places. So to add a VLAN, you're going to have your number one VLAN right here, which is just your default native VLAN. As you can see, there's no name on it or anything like that. And then I currently have 3 VLANs set up. I have guest, I have Colin for my devices, and I have IoT. So what I've done is right now a lot of the stuff is on the native VLAN, like my family's phones, TVs, all that kind of stuff is on the native VLAN. Now I will be setting it up to make to give that kind of stuff its own VLAN, but I'm just playing around with my own devices first, so when I implement it on those devices, I don't have to help my family members reconnect to the Wi-Fi, or the TV is not connecting, or my Amazon Alexa's not connecting, or all that kind of stuff. So I'm getting it all set up on mine, playing around with it on mine before I mess with all the main devices. So if we go to, just to create a new one, you hit this plus button right here. To edit one, you push the little pencil right here. So we're going to go to my VLAN, and we're going to click the little pencil. And I can't make this one do any bigger. But what we're going to do is, you can see the note right here, just the name, which is going to be the name for it, VLAN 20, because we are on the subnet 20 right here. So you can make that, whatever you want within the range, 10, 20, 100, 200, whatever you want to make it within the IP range. You can reserve IPs here. If you don't put a number in there, it defaults to 10, which I have, just the default of 10. I don't really have any static IP addresses on this network. I do on the native VLAN because I have like my Mac Mini server and stuff like that. Actually, no, I moved my Mac Mini server over to this VLAN. But I have some other like smart home, like hubs and stuff like that, which I did assign a static IP address over on the native VLAN. So I do have reserved IPs over there. I'm using the 26 subnet, so that gives us 61 IP addresses. If you assign reserved IPs, you can see the DHCP pool size goes down to 51 because you have 10 reserved, and then you have 51 available for DHCP. I'm not reserving, I wasn't reserving any, I have it set to 0, so that was at 61. You can change the lease time here. If you leave it blank, again, by default, it is 1 day. You can add in DNS servers here. So I do have the Alta Labs router in here, so 192.168.1.1, and then I do have 8.8.8.8, and I think 8.8.4.4, or no, sorry, 9 quad 9, 9.9.9.9. So it'll use the Route 10, and then it also has those DNS servers available as well if there's ever an issue, or one of them may be faster or whatever like that. Domain names is blank. So it's just the default local domain. And then this is where I have an issue. For whatever reason, on any of these VLANs, the default VLAN right here works just fine. I have IPv6 enabled. The router address is blank, and it says only set that when you're using a static WAN IPv6 address, which I am not. My IPv6 address is DHCP from the ISP, but whenever I enable IPv6 on a VLAN, and I can show this to you here, this is on my Mac, which is wired, it's not on Wi-Fi. You can see we have IPv6 local addresses down here, but we're not getting an IPv6 router address for some reason. Now, if I was connected to the the regular native VLAN of 1, it does get a router address. So for some reason, and I don't know why, the router address is not being sent, or whatever you want to call it, over to the VLANs. So I'm not too sure why that's happening. I have posted on the forum, and I have sent in a support ticket. There is somebody else on the forum as well having the same issue that I am. So it's enabled, and it's also enabled on the WAN, which I'm not going to click on because that's going to show I believe it'll show my IP address for my WAN, so I'm just not going to open that. But it does have a IPv6 setting there, and it's set up correctly, and I can get IPv6 on that. So that's for whatever reason not working. So we're going to close that. That is how you add and edit your VLANs themselves. Now, if we go over to the switch here and we pull this up, we can see here these ports right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are all hardwired ports on a wall jack in my office. So some of these, like the Apple TV, are not on the VLAN of 20, just because my Apple TV is a smart home hub, and I haven't changed it over yet. But this one right here, as you can see, is red. This one's red, this one's red, and this one is red. This one is black because it's an access point, and that is on the native management VLAN of 1. If we click 20 here, we can see these are, that VLAN is tagged on 1, so it is tagged on that port, but all these are untagged right here. So all my VLAN 20 traffic, if you hook up to one of these Ethernet jacks in my wall, you will be on the .20 subnet on VLAN 20. So my Mac, my PC, and whatever that other device is, I don't remember off the top of my head. We have my Mac Mini server is on VLAN 20. None of the other ports are tagged, just because, or sorry, the other ones are tagged on the access points, but not these right here, because they are, nope, sorry, I'm an idiot. They're tagged on all these. But the access points, when you connect to the Wi-Fi, and I'll show you my Wi-Fi setup here. These are the 3 VLAN networks. This is the default right there. So if you connect to my network, it is using enterprise Wi-Fi security, and it is using the Radius server on the router. You can see default network VLAN is 20. So when you connect to this network right here, you're on the standard network, and you're on VLAN 20 automatically. If we go back and go to the IoT network, you're on VLAN 30, and that is only a 2 gigahertz network, just because a lot of the smart home devices either don't support 5 gigahertz or it's not needed. So I only enable 2 gigahertz on that. It makes it easier to connect those devices and just not have to worry about them not working with 5 gigahertz or not working with an SSID that is a combo. So one other thing you can do here is, this one is not using the enterprise security, it's using just a regular password. So I can show you this here. This password right here for my IoT network, when you use this password to connect, you connect to the IoT network, which only gives you incoming connections on the local network. We can see the types here. It's restricted to internet and local incoming connections only. And you are on the VLAN of 30, which has firewall rules set, so it's separated from any of the other networks. You can't talk between the two. You can also set an upload rate, download rate if you want to right there. But if I were to add another password, right? And actually, we'll go over to my main network here, because this is just a regular Wi-Fi network for regular devices. So it's on the standard network. If you connect to this, you're just going to be on 192.168.1.x on the regular, default VLAN down here. But if I add a password, say I want to use my network, but use this SSID. All I have to do is make a password, so whatever it may be. If I make that password, and I don't even know what that is because it's just some gibberish I typed in, but I make that password and I go here, I can choose a different network type if I want it to be internet only, or if I want it to be a guest network. So you can use your regular main SSID and have Colin's guest network as the password, or whatever your example may be. When you use that password, it's going to put you on this network. So if I do a guest network and then VLAN 30, or I think VLAN 10 is the guest network. So if I use this password right here, it's going to connect me to a guest network type on the VLAN of 10, or the subnet of 10 on VLAN 10. So it's going to have all the VLAN 10 rules. all the same firewall settings as that VLAN, but you're still on your regular SSID. So you can broadcast, one SSID and make, different passwords that'll connect you to different network types. So that is pretty cool. That you can do that. So that's one way of doing it, or you can just broadcast separate SSIDs. Only reason I do that for these is because I'm using enterprise security on this one, and then these are all hidden SSIDs. I could combine these two into this network right here and just use a password for this and a password for this, which I may do at some other time, but just for the ease of connecting those devices, like I said, the IoT network only broadcasts the 2 gigahertz network, which you can't do with the different password types. If you're broadcasting 2.4 and 5 gigahertz on that SSID, then that doesn't change based on the password types. So that is what I'm doing there. And then, like I said, firewall rules. We have allow hotspot, which is for the hotspot on the guest network. That's just so you can connect to that. I don't know if this is needed. I was having some issues with it, so I just added these, which are common hotspot ports, just so you can connect to the main VLAN to access the router's hotspot functionality. Again, I don't know if that's needed, but when I added those, it started working, so I haven't taken them off. And then after you have access to those, the guest is blocked to my network, which is VLAN 20. It's blocked to the LAN, which is the native 1 VLAN. IoT is blocked to LAN. So VLAN 30 is blocked to VLAN 1. IoT is blocked to VLAN 20. And then just allow, those are all just the default rules that are already in here. So that is the DHCP, sorry, not the DHCP, the VLANs and the subnets I have set up here and how I have them set up. One other thing you can do for kind of your guest networks and stuff like that is if you hop over here, and I'll show you back on the router here, the port tagging on the switch here. So if I go to a VLAN here, we'll go to my VLAN, and then you go to this pencil right here. Actually, sorry, that's not right. We'll open a switch port here. You can see that you have the colors right here, which are basically groups. So if you're on black, black is always default. It's always allow everything. If we click this pencil right here, we can edit the red port. So red port is VLAN 20. And it allows VLANs 1 and 20 because 1 is the native, so I have that allowed. So if you connect a device here that may be static IP set to VLAN 1, it'll still get that address. And then speed is auto, isolation is off. All these are basically default settings right here. But if I connect to this port, switch 2 here, if I open up, we'll just open up a different port here that's not set to anything, right? So just for the example, this one's set to black because it's just the default port type, which means if I change this to red, that's going to make the native VLAN the default of whatever is set for the red color. So if we edit the color red here, the native VLAN is 20 for the red port, so that's going to make this default 20. Allowed VLANs is 1 and 20, so that's going to make this 1 and 20. So when it says default right here, that's what it is defaulting to, is the settings for that color. So you can assign, if you make a color, like we'll go here to gray, and I pick gray, you can edit these settings for the gray color, and then instead of having to go and edit each port and all these settings individually, if you want to set up, say I want, we'll hit select here, if I want 21, 22, 23, 24 right here, all to be the same settings, say they're all on one wall jack in like an office, and you want them all on the same VLAN with the same settings, you can go here and you can go to set color, red, save, and then all these ports right here are on VLAN 20 with all those same settings. So, and you can select it again, set color, black, we'll set them back to what they were. That's just setting them back to what the default was. And then you can do the same thing here with the color is the only way you can set all those, but you can set like a mode here. So that kind of stuff is all, you can just check that for that kind of stuff. But that's how you do that, and you can edit multiple ports by using different color groups. That applies to access points as well. So you can see all the access points have black colors on them, which means if we head over here to the Wi-Fi settings and we go to my network, we can see the black color is all access points. That is default. You can't change that. But if we set like blue on here, or say we make a new network, we'll go to the IoT network because it's on gray, it's not on black. So black is all APs. Any other color is what you configure. So there's no black on here. which means this is not broadcast to all APs. So if we go here to my access points, you can see that only one access point has the color gray on it, which means that any SSID with that color group is only going to be broadcast on APs with that color selected. So the SSID, the guest network, which has the color gray, and the IoT network, which has the color gray, is only being broadcast from the upstairs access point. The route or the downstairs office and the Collins office are not on that color group, which means they do not broadcast that SSID. They only broadcast my network and the other main network. So that's how you do that. If you want to set up, like, if I want my office access point to broadcast those SSIDs, then I just add that color. So if I add gray right here, then it's going to broadcast it's going to broadcast any network with the black color on it, and it's going to broadcast any networks with the gray color on it. So that is how you select what access points broadcast what. And same thing for the switch. If you have VLANs or stuff like that with the colors on them, you can assign that within that, which is it's going to have that just as black because it's part of that same group, but that is separate from the SSIDs. Only the access points are the ones with the SSID colors. And then, like I said, the switch, you can use the colors for doing the VLANs and stuff like that on different ports. So that's my Alta Labs setup. I've had some time to play around with it. I know this video has been a long time coming since I unboxed a lot of their stuff, but my setup's working really well. I just need to figure out that issue with the IPv6. I even have the Google window over here. You can see right here. It is not detecting IPv6. And I can even show you guys like live right here. I will set my, actually I can't change it right now because I'm recording to a network drive. So if I switch that port, it's going to mess up the recording. But if I switch over to the native VLAN, I will have IPv6. Just trust me on that one. I've tested that a bunch of times. So for whatever reason, when you set a network or a VLAN with a different subnet, for whatever reason, it's not giving it IPv6 router address, and which means you don't have an IPv6 WAN connection. So trying to figure that out, but that's the only issue I've had. Everything else is working very well, and this is my setup. I'm Colin with Techout. Don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe. Have a great day.